2 hours ago, Iran's Assembly of Experts made the single decision that Washington had explicitly, repeatedly, and publicly demanded they not make. They elected Mojtaba Khamenei, the 56-year-old son of the supreme leader America just killed, as the Islamic Republic's new supreme leader. Trump had warned them for days. Khamenei's son is a lightweight, he told Axios. Khamenei's son is unacceptable to me, he told Time. He's going to have to get approval from us, he told ABC News. If he doesn't get approval from us, he's not going to last long. Iran's Assembly of Experts heard every one of those warnings. They read every interview. And then, on March 8, 2026, 9 days into a US-Israeli war designed in part to reshape Iran's political future, they chose the dead man's son anyway. Trump's response came fast. I think they made a big mistake. I don't know if it's going to last. Then, I don't believe he can live in peace. Then, I am not happy. Those three statements, issued in sequence over 24 hours, told the world something that no Pentagon briefing has said out loud. The operation that killed Ali Khamenei struck 5,000 targets and spent $5 billion in munitions in its first 2 days did not achieve the one political outcome it was built around. Iran chose its own leader, and it chose the one Washington said it would never accept. What the succession was supposed to accomplish. To understand why this selection is strategically devastating for Washington's position, you have to understand what the succession was supposed to accomplish. Operation Epic Fury was not designed as a pure military exercise. Trump said it himself in his State of the Union address on February 24th. Iran was building missiles and drones to protect nuclear ambitions. The goal was not merely to destroy weapons. The goal was to destroy the regime's ability to threaten, and ultimately, as Trump stated explicitly, to open the door to a different Iran, one that required no future military action. I'm not going through this to end up with another Khamenei, Trump told Time magazine. I want to be involved in the selection, like with Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. The Venezuela comparison was telling. After U.S. forces captured Nicolás Maduro in January, the Trump administration effectively installed a friendly successor. Trump wanted to replicate that template in Tehran. The problem is that Venezuela and Iran are not the same country. Maduro's government collapsed under the weight of its own exhaustion. The Iranian system, built over 46 years of deliberate institutional design, was specifically architected to survive exactly this kind of external pressure. The Assembly of Experts exists precisely to ensure succession continues regardless of what happens to any individual leader. And it did, under bombardment, with an internet blackout reducing connectivity to 4% of normal levels, with Israeli jets striking the building in Qom, housing the clerical body responsible for the vote. The succession happened anyway. It was, by any measure, a demonstration of institutional resilience that the White House did not model. Who Mojtaba Khamenei actually is. Mojtaba Khamenei is not the figure Washington's messaging portrayed him as. The word lightweight reflected a political hope more than an analytical judgment. For most of his 56 years, Mojtaba operated entirely behind the scenes. U.S. diplomatic cables, published by WikiLeaks, had described him years ago as the power behind the robes, a figure of genuine influence inside the security apparatus, the clergy, and the business networks that hold the Islamic Republic together. He has deep, long-standing ties to the IRGC, the institution that actually runs Iran's military capacity and which has continued fighting through 11 days of the heaviest American bombardment since the Iraq War. He fought in the Iran-Iraq War. He has spent decades building networks that his father's public profile obscured. He has never held formal office, which means he carries none of the institutional baggage of someone who had to compromise to rise through visible political channels. Bloomberg's assessment was precise. He faces not only a US and Israeli war machine bent on his downfall, but a population in turmoil, much of which is desperate to see the back of his regime. That is a genuine pressure, but it also describes a man who has just inherited the leadership of a country at war, with the emotional weight of having lost his father, mother, wife, and a child in US-Israeli airstrikes. An analyst told Time, if before there was even the slightest of chances that Mojtaba Khamenei might take the country down a path of major reforms, such as those initiated by the Saudi Crown Prince, which would include détente with America, it's now impossible. His loss has filled him with an undying desire for revenge. Trump, calling him a lightweight, publicly and repeatedly, made things worse. Policy analyst Ryan Costello told Al Jazeera that Trump's disapproval may have inadvertently boosted Mojtaba's candidacy. It became not a question of who is the best candidate, Costello said, but what do we need to do to protect Iranian sovereignty in the face of this aggression? It's possible Mojtaba had the inside track all along, but I do think Trump's disapproval made it very hard for the system to go in any other direction. The international reaction to Mojtaba's selection has fractured along lines that are acutely uncomfortable for Washington. Russia moved first and fast. Vladimir Putin sent a personal message pledging unwavering support for Tehran and reaffirming that Russia would remain a reliable partner to Iran. That message arrived within hours of the appointment. It was not subtle. Iraq's Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani congratulated Mojtaba directly and reaffirmed Iraqi solidarity with Iran. Iraq hosts significant U.S. troop deployments. The fact that its Prime Minister is publicly congratulating the leader Washington just threatened is a signal about Iraqi political constraints that the White House cannot ignore. Yemen's Houthis, who have continued attacking Gulf shipping throughout the conflict, expressed support. Oman, which had been Washington's preferred back channel for diplomatic communications with Tehran, offered congratulations without conditions. The democratic world's response was significantly more muted. No major European government issued a statement endorsing Trump's position that the U.S. should have been involved in selecting Iran's leader. Several issued quiet statements about sovereignty. Germany's foreign ministry noted that internal political succession is an internal matter. France said nothing. The silence from traditional U.S. allies on the leadership question was as significant as Russia's loudness. Washington entered this conflict with a stated goal of reshaping Iran's political future. 11 days in, Iran's political future has been shaped by Iranians, and the international community is not lining up to validate the American position. 3 paths. None delivers the original objective. Trump's options at this moment are more constrained than any public briefing has acknowledged. The first path is to accept the outcome and pivot. Acknowledge that Mojtaba Khamenei is Iran's new leader. Demand that he publicly renounce nuclear weapons, which Defense Secretary Hegseth has already done on record. And attempt to use continued military pressure to extract a commitment. This is the path of pragmatism. It requires dropping the rhetoric about approval and accepting that Iran made its own choice. It is also the path that most closely resembles a negotiated outcome. Iran's foreign minister has said talks are off the table. But foreign ministers say many things that change when bombs continue falling. The second path is escalation. Trump has already implied Mojtaba may not last, and Senator Lindsey Graham stated directly that he believes it is just a matter of time before the new supreme leader meets the same fate as his father. This path means attempting to kill a second Iranian supreme leader inside 2 weeks. The military capability to do so likely exists. The strategic logic for doing so does not. Killing Ali Khamenei did not produce a favorable succession. Killing Mojtaba would trigger a third succession under even more extreme conditions, with even stronger hardline momentum. The third path is disengagement, ending military operations before achieving the stated regime change objective and declaring whatever military gains have been made a sufficient victory. Trump has already signaled this possibility, telling reporters the war could end pretty quickly and very soon. The IRGC's public response was immediate. Iran will determine when the war ends. There is no path available that delivers what Operation Epic Fury was originally designed to achieve: a different Iran with different leadership that does not require future American military action. That objective is now off the table. The question is which of the remaining paths produces the least damaging outcome from a position that has already narrowed significantly. What this signals to the world, the deeper problem for Washington, is what this succession signals to every other country watching. Trump attempted to apply the Venezuela template to Iran. That template worked in Venezuela because Maduro's government had no institutional depth, no genuine popular legitimacy, no military that would fight to the end, and no external patron willing to make American action costly. Iran has all four of those things. The IRGC has continued fighting through 11 days of the most intense bombardment since the Iraq War. Russia is openly aligned with Tehran. The institutional succession mechanism survived every effort to disrupt it. The message that sends to North Korea, to China, to every authoritarian government watching the outcome of this experiment is that a sufficiently deep institutional structure can survive even the assassination of its supreme leader and an 11-day bombing campaign by the world's most powerful military. That is not a message the United States intended to send. It is the message that has been sent. Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss put the political damage in American domestic terms. Trump replaced an 86-year-old terrorist dictator with a 56-year-old terrorist dictator. That framing will define the congressional debate over war powers, over continued funding, over the 8 American soldiers now confirmed dead. 2 hours ago, Iran made the choice Washington said was unacceptable. It made it deliberately, publicly, and under fire. The new supreme leader has deep IRGC ties, a personal motivation for revenge, and the full backing of Russia. The war continues. The succession is settled. And the objective that justified the entire operation, a different Iran, is further away now than it was on February 27th. Trump wanted to be involved in choosing Iran's next leader. Iran chose its own. And in doing so, it may have handed the new supreme leader something that his father never had: the legitimacy of being the man America tried to stop.